Let's talk about pursuing the optimal as a founder. So, pursuing the optimal is a phrase that we came up with internally, and it's just kind of one of those things that we say 1,000 times a day. But it's because it's a critical mentality aspect that I think has led to a lot of the success that we've had, our founders have had. It's this idea that it's not about, and you've heard me say this before, right or wrong. It's about getting better, it's about being optimal. Now, optimal for us is a very specific definition. It's the best that you can with what you have, with what you know, with what you're capable of for the maximum possible results. Now, we're going to break each of those down because they're each in there very pithy. Every word matters in that way. So, best you can. What does that mean? Well, first, we just acknowledge perfection's impossible. So, we're just going to toss that right in the garbage because we don't ever need to worry about it. Since it's not possible, we don't have to concern ourselves with any of that. We can just focus on what can we do to get better day by day, to go from a D to a C to a B to an A. It's all possible. So, that's kind of an acceptance thing. Best for us actually has a minimum, which is interesting. Best is very specific. It means a 7 out of 10 product, which means it's a C if you're looking at the American grading system. And how do I define a 7 out of 10 or a C quality product? It's a product that's good enough to not get returned. It's good enough to have few returns or to have few cancellations. Maybe people aren't jumping up and down every day that they have it, but at minimum, they're not asking for their money back. That is what I consider the minimum best. Why? Because once that happens, once you can sell someone something and make money, you can do that 1,000 times. You can do that 10,000 times. And if it's not getting returned, you're going the right direction. Next is, what do you have? You've got you've got time, and you've got money. And you may have your network. Understand that you're going to deal with limited resources. We have this, mentality of every founder is lost in the desert, which means A, they need to ration, because if you don't ration in the desert, things aren't going to go too well for you. And two, you need to not stop moving forward. You need to understand, I have goals, I have to-dos, I have things, regardless if I have any time, any money, any skill, there are things that I can do to move this business forward. And this is where that scrappiness partly comes from, because what you can do with what you have is really indicative of how scrappy and successful, what are the odds that this business is really, really going to work. What you know, not surprising, use your brain. Think it through. Did you or do you understand whatever X domain is? Whether it's pursuing the optimal for marketing, which would mean an ad that at least converts. Maybe it doesn't convert 10,000 customers a day, but it converts. That sounds like a C to me. Whether it's a product stage where is our MVP far enough along, or do we understand enough of what value we're trying to provide to make it worthwhile? Is that optimal? If so, amazing. The big thing about what you know, and it's important to recognize this, it's not a static question, meaning it's not just what do you know today, it's what can you learn today and tomorrow. Well, in advance of the conversation that you need to have with it. Because startup founders, it's not like they're born day one and know everything that they know. They just don't tell you all of the incredibly painful lessons and books and readings and courses and accelerators and mentors and advisors, and the list goes on, that they went through to acquire that knowledge that now looks so second nature to them. Now, I tell you all these things because now you know, and you can understand that these startup titans that look like titans, some of them are just rightfully because they just have all the money in the world, but some just built themselves day by day and moved their way up using what they knew, the best that they could, in every situation. Little pro tip here, what you know is also who you know. Because if you know someone that has a great skill set or has X, Y, and Z knowledge, and either A, they're willing to teach you, or B, maybe they're willing to join the team, become an advisor, be helpful in X scenario, give you some advice on one piece of the system, whatever it might be, that all falls under what you know because it's within your network. So therefore, if the knowledge is accessible, the knowledge is yours. Last but not least, with your capabilities. And remember, we're not just talking, mental capabilities. I mean, if we're talking about pursuing the optimal marketing campaign, what are our graphic design capabilities given how good we all are with Photoshop or Canva or whatever it might be, Microsoft Paint? If we're talking about software capabilities, it's do we have the knowledge to build all the different features that we really want to build? And if a list of 10 core features came out, what percentage could we build? And is there one that's really complex that we need to get some incremental knowledge on or add some team members or do something to enable that? Because clearly that sounds like it would be helpful, but it also doesn't sound like it would be optimal. Probably sounds like it'd be more optimal to pursue the other 8 features, 9 features that we can build that maybe a customer will really pay for. And then we get some of that revenue. We go hire someone that really knows how to build the 10th. We build the 10th. We go back to the customer. A product life cycle is born just like that. Do not discount small wins with your capabilities, whether it's in that example of like the 10 features. If you're like, yeah, but the 10th feature is the most important, it's going to drive $10 bajillion in value. It's like, great. Well, the first 9 are going to drive $1,000 in value. And I can't wait to see it. And neither can your customer. Because if it's never good enough for you, why would it be good enough for them? It's not like that 10th feature is, the 10th feature is literally the greatest thing in the world. 99% of founders can find a way to extract some value from the first 9 features, enough to at least get customers to justify the 10th. But more often than not, you'll find that features 1 through 9 do aplenty, and there's probably a few extra features that you don't even know of that you learn about through having customers and through discovery that take priority over some of 1 through 9 features and maybe even number 10. So understand, when we pursue the optimal, when we think about how can we go forward, it's really making sure we understand what's our priority. What is it that we need to get done? What results are we aiming for? And how can we be scrappy at every level, whether it's the effort we put in, whether it's the resources that we have available and how we use them, whether it's the knowledge that we currently have or can acquire, or the skills that we have in that way. Whatever it is, that is what we use to ultimately pursue the optimal.